So I've been doing research in prisons in Australia for 10 years, and man, we always go, wouldn't it be great to have a PNSP? And then you get to go to Canada and you go, whoo, there is a lot of work to do to make that work effectively, isn't there? But it's been really cool to be involved in this project. So Nadine, thank you so much for including me since the get-go of this project, because it's just been amazing to be able to be engaged and see how that stuff works in a country where they do have PNEPs, as they like to call it in Canada. So we've already published on this. You can find the papers online with IJDP. We've separated the analyses by prison personnel and people who were incarcerated. That's like blinding this way. So then what we did was we did focus groups across 9 prisons where the PNEPs were implemented at the time of data collection. There's been a couple more added since. And we asked 2 questions to these focus groups. So a focus group of healthcare workers, focus groups with officers, with people who are peer advocates within the prison, so trusted people within prison, and then also people who are currently enrolled in the PNAP or OAT program. And then there were 2 officer groups that didn't want to be involved. So we ended up with however many that math equals to. And we asked these questions. Question 1 was, what do you think is getting in the way of people at this prison enrolling in the PNUP? And then they ranked, they all went around the room, they gave their responses, and then they were asked a second question about how do you identify this, about the solutions for that. And there was this round robin approach and some voting that happened. So people got allocated 3 votes for each of the questions. And so then we find out what people think collectively. And so the prison personnel, we can see from the officers that bullying and coercion, perceptions of people in prison being bullied and coerced if they enroll in the program as being the primary barrier. And on the flip side, we see that there's a massive glare where I'm trying to read. We see fear of being targeted, so there's some commonality there that's happening. But so from the officer perspective, muscling, which is a prison term, that light is terrible. They're being targeted by other inmates because they know that they're on the program. And on the flip side, for people enrolled in the program, I would rather risk my life and get another needle from someone else than go in there and ask for a needle, because they fear that they're being targeted by correctional officers. So it's not the targeting by their peers. And then when we think about the solutions, we look at what was so interesting is that supervised safe injection site. One of the later suggestions by officers, very fascinatingly, was safe supply, but that wasn't a top-ranking one. But then that supervised safe injection site, and what was so interesting was that people who were enrolled in the program or on OAT did not highlight that one, and I can imagine it was all those concerns of those barriers, that they're not sure that they can come forward and access the program if it was a supervised consumption site. But they believed that the program should be implemented by an external service provider and not have that correctional oversight. So this officer says, it makes my job a lot safer. I know that they haven't OD'd, and I'm not going to get stuck with a needle. So you can see those benefits from the officer perspective if there was a safe supply room, which Canada does have in a couple prisons. And then the PNEP OAT users directly to healthcare staff. So CSC knows nothing about it, and that's such a key point, is that they really want to uphold that confidentiality and not have that officer involvement. Okay, I made it in the 4 minutes.
Any questions from the audience? I have a quick question. What kind of pushback did you receive from the very beginning of getting these NSPs implemented in the prison system? I just think of the context as to, implementing these harm reduction interventions in a prison, in the context of criminalization. And so was it a huge effort, or was the context conducive to allowing these programs to be implemented?
I live in Australia. I had no pushback. Nadine Cronfley, who's driving this project, oh man, I have said to her many times, I don't know how you're managing this. It's not been a straightforward thing. Being able to go into prisons and conduct focus groups in prisons and not to do it post-release, because you'll find that most qualitative research around people who are incarcerated is post-release. Like, that's a huge achievement. To go across to 9 prisons and engage all of those people, massive undertaking. Thanks.
Thank you.